I'm very sure that many of you know the new Galaxy Z Flip 5 and its new cover display. It's bigger, able to do a lot more things than before, and it has gotten such a big upgrade that Samsung is now calling this cover display as the Flex window. While doing our usual tests to gather data, I realized that this phone has a lot more upgrades that Samsung didn't even mention to us. So I'm going to share all of them with you here today in this video, so let's begin. Let's start with the obvious, the new Flex window. As mentioned by countless videos available on YouTube right now, it can do a lot of things with it, but the official widgets available are pretty, well, limited, I would say. We can head into the settings menu and then we can see a list there. This is all that we get. There is a hidden widget for music players though. If you have Spotify Premium, then you can do this. Any songs that have a video built in will be shown like this on the Flex window. If that particular song doesn't have a video, then it will just show the album art. YouTube Premium though has something similar, but the video won't be played, but instead the video will technically become an audiobook. And hey, we can even reply to messages using the full-size keyboard too. Finally, we don't have to unfold the display each time we want to type a message. But I want to do more, and we can actually launch whatever apps we want on the Flex window too. It's a bit tedious if you want to enable this feature. First, we have to download Good Lock. If Good Lock isn't available in your country, then just search for something called Nice Lock in the Google Play Store. It works the same way. Then download the Multi-Star applet. From here, we can see a special setting available for only the Galaxy Z Flip 5. Tap on that and then we can enable something called Launcher, and that lets us launch any apps that we want on the Flex window. And I mean any apps, including web browsers, social media apps, and even games. It will definitely be too small to play any games, but hey, it works. Since we can launch whatever app that we want, I also tested the color accuracy of the Flex window as well. And it's looking pretty good, honestly. It can actually display virtually 100% of both sRGB and DCI-P3 color gamuts, and it can also go beyond 100 nits of brightness. It's just amazing. Before we open up the phone, we have to talk about the hinge. This new hinge is the second big update, and it makes the phone close fully flat and leaves zero gaps in between. Well, I kinda realized that it is not actually the case. It does have a very tiny gap if we just look at it at the right angle. And yeah, I just don't think that they can make the display close with literally zero gaps in between, because any dust or debris that get caught in between will get squished inside and will definitely damage the display. So leaving a very tiny gap here is the smart move to make. And even with this hinge, the Galaxy Z Flip 5 still manages to retain its IPX8 rating just like before, and that is just some great engineering there. So once we open up the phone, we are presented with more or less what we had from the previous generation. The screen size, resolution, and also refresh rate remains the same at 6.7 inches, 2640 by 1080 pixels, and also 120Hz refresh rate. But the maximum brightness did get an upgrade. I took out our colorimeter and did two tests for this phone. So one for the top half and then another one for the bottom half. True enough, the maximum brightness achievable on this phone is somewhere around 950 nits, while maintaining very good color accuracy for both halves of the screen. I also want to talk about the crease a little bit here. Yes, it does still have a crease and it does seem like it's a lot flatter than before, but that might be because the device is still brand new. As time goes by, this might change, as what has happened to my Galaxy Z Fold 4. Oh, some people also say that the Z Flip 5 doesn't open perfectly flat. I don't see that to be the case here, so I'm not sure what's going on with their units. The third upgrade for this phone is obviously gonna be the chipset. Of course, it is using the currently latest and still the greatest Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy with that mild overclock, and I'll say that it performed the best that it could, honestly speaking. In our gaming test, we did state that the Galaxy Z Flip 5 cannot really perform as well as the S23 series and the Z Fold 5 for that matter because of its thermals. You see, because of the nature of flip devices, the chipset needs to be on one side of the phone, and for the Galaxy Z Flip 5, it is placed somewhere beside the camera module. That means the footprint available is really small and the heat cannot really dissipate that much, hence having to thermal throttle to prevent overheating. I mean, no one can cheat physics, so this is what we have right now, and yeah, it's something that we all should take note of. However, the thermal limit for this phone is surprisingly low, I would say. We measured somewhere around 45 degrees Celsius maximum on the surface, and that's about it. I would say Samsung can actually push the surface temperature to somewhere around 50 degrees Celsius. Some people might complain that it's hot, but it's still within the safety limits. You can still play games like Genshin Impact at around medium to high graphical quality and still enjoy it at 60 FPS. I also found out that the storage and RAM speeds are not the fastest even when compared with the Galaxy Z Fold 5, but it's definitely plenty fast for daily usage. Another thing that got an indirect upgrade is the cameras. Even though the Galaxy Z Flip 5 is using the exact same camera sensor as the Flip 3 and Flip 4, the pictures coming out of the Flip 5 should look better because of the chipset. All of the images taken are processed by the ISP, Image Signal Processor, and that is usually built into the chipset. In broad daylight, it can obviously take some good pictures. It's not really surprising here, so I'll just show you a few pics here and there and move on to the night shots. This is where the biggest difference is found. The main camera can actually take proper night shots, and it takes at most 5 seconds to take these kind of shots, and this is a big step forward actually. And it can even take this shot in a completely pitch black area as well. The ultra wide angle camera though does struggle while taking night shots, but I'll say they're still good enough for social media usage. I also did a quick selfie camera test here. Of course, the inner display's selfie camera wouldn't look as good as the main camera, especially for these kind of portrait shots right here. However, the new generation of foldables do not have the wider ±3 degree angle for the OIS compensation, and yeah, as you can see here, it's a little bit shaky. That is even more apparent when we're taking night videos actually. One more upgrade that Samsung didn't mention here is actually the USB port. The Flip 5 finally has a USB 3 port at the bottom, and it even has display output too. However, it still doesn't have Samsung text, despite so many people asking for it, which I still think it's a little bit disappointing. But yeah, having USB 3 is a step forward. Since the chipset has been upgraded, the battery life is also affected, though the Flip 5 has the exact same battery capacity as the Flip 4. Since our battery life tests are standardized, we can reuse the results from last year and compare them with the Flip 5. We can see that because of just the chipset that is much more efficient than before, the battery life has been extended by 6.77%, and that is actually quite significant. By the way, the Galaxy Z Flip 5 does have the battery bypass feature as well. Just follow the instructions shown in our other video, click at the top right corner there to watch that video. The charging time of the Galaxy Z Flip 5 remains the same as before. It still takes in a maximum of 25 watts, but our watt meter says that it's mostly somewhere around 18 watts. And it requires around 75 minutes to charge from 15% to completion. And once again, the temperature is kept very low, and I think Samsung has some headroom to charge the device even faster at the expense of maybe a degree or 2 Celsius higher. As for the software, it is running the One UI 5.1.1, and from what I have seen here, the Flip doesn't actually have that much notable changes in terms of its software. There is a new Flex panel module here that acts like a trackpad, and then you can do a few more shortcuts here and there, and that's about it. The new features mostly stem from the new Flex window, which we have already talked about earlier. The overall shape and size of the Galaxy Z Flip 5 has not changed either. All of the button placements are identical, but what I did realize is that the back panel here, which is the only part that shows the color of the Flip 5 that you have ordered, is now covered by a glossy glass finish. Not sure why they don't make it matte finish for this time, but that's just something that I want to highlight. And finally, the conclusion. I don't think anyone aiming to buy this device needs my opinion anyway. I do think that the Galaxy Z Flip 5 will still sell like hotcakes because seriously, Samsung addressed two biggest concerns, hinge and also the cover display. There are two more additional upgrades. Firstly, the removal of 128 gigs version, and I just don't think 128 gigs is usable for this day and age, and that also means that Samsung upgraded the price as well. For us here in Malaysia though, it starts 100 ringgit higher than the previous generation, but I do think that is an okay price hike, I would say. I'll leave all of the links in the description below, and do let us know if you have any questions regarding the Galaxy Z Flip 5. See you guys in the next video where we talk about the fold.